The Book of the American Pit Bull Terrier. Richard F. Stratton. Chapter 9. The Keep. Labor conquers all things. Homer. Like the rest of this book, this chapter about the care and training of a fighting dog is for the information of the general public and is not intended as a handbook for potential pit dog men. For that reason, no specific and detailed keep will be given. This chapter should be of interest even to those who are opposed to the matching of dogs, for it is the inside story of how pit dogs are trained. Contrary to the ravings of many humaniacs, there is no need to train the American Pit Bull Terrier to want to fight. However, the desire of a young dog to fight will come to various dogs at different stages of maturation. Thus, some pups will fight at just a few weeks of age with such intensity that they must be broken apart with the use of breaking sticks. Others are quite mellow and show no desire to fight until they are 3 years old or even older. And strange as it may seem, there seems to be no correlation between how soon a dog starts and the depth of his gameness. Another variation is the outward passion shown by individual dogs. One dog can be an embarrassment to take for a walk because whenever he sees a dog, even if it is 5 blocks away, he turns into a screaming maniac. A more typical pit bull will make no sound when he sees a dog, but he will strain hard in his harness to get to him. Many of the best pit dogs were easygoing dogs that would ignore street dogs, or any dogs, except when faced against them in a pit. So again we have a situation in which there is no correlation, that is between aggressiveness, or craziness, and gameness. Some of the great dogs of all time, Debois, Centipede, Circe Jeff and White Rock, were easygoing dogs that were not of the super-aggressive type. However, in the pit they were veritable tornadoes, boring in hard, pushing the other dog into the boards and shaking with a vengeance. While dogs differ in that they start at different ages, there also will be some that will never start at all, and there is no way to start them. They will let a dog chew on them and maybe even wag their tail while he does it. Fewer females than males start, and females are a little more erratic than males, perhaps due to their heat cycle. Here, though, is an interesting point. Some dog men believe that the only reason there are more good males than females is because there has been more selectivity in regard to the males. Many more females than males are bred without being tested. Another point of interest is whether or not gameness is connected to the sex drive. Well, my own view is that it absolutely is not, no more so than the desire to run in a greyhound. I think that idea originated among game chicken men. A fighting chicken can be castrated and he will eventually lose all desire to fight once the hormones have been washed out of his body. However, pit bulls have been altered and spayed with no effect on either gameness or fighting desire. The amusing point here is that quite often the operation was done on the advice of a veterinarian to curb the fighting urge in someone's pet pit bull. Well, it may work with other dogs but not these. Anyway, given the fact that different dogs start at different ages, how does the typical pit dog man proceed? One method widely used is to walk an aggressive-acting dog by the young dogs on a daily basis. Now, with most dog men, the young dogs will be at least 16 to 18 months old. Some of the dogs may shy away from the older and more aggressive dog. Others will try to play with him, while still others will fire up and act like they want to fight. Whatever the reek-tie-in, our pit dog man will not allow any contact for several days. Finally, after a few days of going through this routine, he may allow contact between the older dog and one of the more aggressive-acting young dogs. He will allow the pup to be rolled for about 5 minutes and then break it up. A few weeks later the pup will be taken off his chain and taken to the pit for a short roll. And so it goes, step by careful step, the dog is schooled. His schooling consists solely of a few short rolls against dogs with a variety of styles so that he may learn how to counter each of them. The pit dog man tries to make sure each roll is a pleasant experience because this is a confidence-building stage. For that reason, the young dog is not allowed to become overly tired and he is never put against overly rough opponents. There comes a time, though, when everything possible is done to discourage the young prospect. This is the game test and it is done after the schooling is completed. In a game test our young dog is typically put on a larger, rougher opponent. By this time our pit dog man knows how much pit intelligence, wrestling ability, and biting power his young charge possesses. In the game test he is endeavoring to probe the depth of his gameness, endurance and ability to take punishment. For that reason a game test is likely to last as long as an hour. There is variation of opinion here, though. Some dog fighters, if they like the way a young dog looks in a roll, will let a match be his game test. Ultimately, that's what a match is anyway, a game test for the elite of the American Pit Bull Terrier world. Just as there are a small percentage of football players that will make it in professional ball, so, too, is there only a small percentage of pit bulls that will be good enough for the pit. If our prospect passes his game test, he is finally ready to match. Before a match is made, a typical dog man has pulled his dog's weight down and experimented a bit to ascertain what is his most efficient fighting weight. Just as with boxers or wrestlers, this will be the lightest weight at which he retains full strength. There are 2 reasons for bringing down the weight. 1, for the same reason as in boxing or wrestling, is to keep from going against a larger opponent. Then there are the physiological reasons, such as too much fat being an extra burden on the circulatory system. Heat dissipation is an important factor here too. In any case, once the pit weight is determined, the typical dog fighter then submits it at a match site or announces informally to other dog men that he has that particular weight open. Once the match is made, the dog goes into a keep. Keep is a term that originally referred to the diet for use during the training of a fighting dog. It has since come to be applied more broadly. In fact, it is generally used to refer to every aspect of the keep, the diet, method of exercise, method of increasing the work for the dog, the number of times a dog is weighed a day and so on. There are almost as many different types of keeps as there are pit dog men, and each one naturally thinks he has the best and is inclined to keep at least portions of it secret. A typical keep, though, begins with a complete physical examination by a veterinarian. A full blood screening is done and the animal is checked for parasites. Once cleared medically, the dog is again brought down to pit weight and begins his training. The key is to start out gradually, for it is easy to overdo, as the dog is usually a capable and willing worker. Too much work, however, can cause bloody or sore foot pads. The foot pads must be constantly watched and treated continually either with home concoctions or some commercial foot toughener. What kind of work do the dogs do? Again, it varies with the individual dog man and dog. The spring pole and treadmill used to be the stock in trade of the pit dog man. The spring pole, however, is rarely used now as part of a serious conditioning program. In my opinion, there is really nothing wrong with spring pole work, it is just one of those things that has fallen out of favor. Potential back injuries and possible damage to the teeth are usually cited as reasons for not using the spring pole. I've never had any of those problems with any of my dogs using the spring pole. However, if I ever matched a dog, I probably wouldn't use it either, simply because it is no longer in fashion. The treadmill is still used as part of a conditioning program, but not as much as it once was. The apparatus known as the catmill or training machine, a more archaic term, is very much in vogue now. There used to be prejudice against this piece of equipment, too, with people saying that it would injure the dog. Modern dog men, however, apparently feel that they have learned to use it properly. A lot of room is needed for the catmill, as it consists of a steel arm about 10 feet long to which the dog is harnessed. Then there has to be a counterbalancing arm 10 feet in the opposite direction. In addition, there is usually an arm that supports a cage into which a cat, coon, or possum can be placed as enticement to get the dog to run well. The caged animal, usually a cat, gets used to his role in the training and quite often will go to sleep, all the while being turned at a furious pace on his merry-go-round. Now you would think the dog would soon realize that his pursuit is a hopeless one. The faster he runs, the faster the cage retreats. Well, of course, even the dumbest of dogs will soon learn that he will never catch his prey, but the image excites him and makes him want to work harder. It is not unlike the fantasies that marathon runners use to keep going or that football players utilize to get psyched up for a game. Anyway, most pit dogs are such bears for work that they will work the catmill with an empty cage. I've seen some used with a coonskin cap in the cage. Others used plastic bottles that would rattle around in the cage with results just as effective as a live animal. Although there used to be a prejudice against swimming, some dog men are currently utilizing it in a keep with good results. The trainer simply walks along the edge of a dock with the dog in the water. When they get to the end of the dock, they simply reverse their field and do this over and over. A variation here is to put the dog in the water, secure the rope from his harness to a stationary underwater 2x4 and then utilize a dog on shore as bait. Swim mightily in place for an hour or more. Again, of course, the dog must suspect that he will never get to his adversary, but the sight of him there fuels his efforts. A very common piece of equipment that is used in nearly all keeps is the flirt pole. This is simply a pole, not unlike a fishing pole, with a lure, i.e., a hide, at the end. The trainer runs the lure along the ground and the dog chases it. Usually the dog is occasionally allowed to catch and worry the hide, or whatever the lure happens to be. Then the chase is on again. Whatever method, or combination of methods, of exercise is used, and I have not mentioned them all by any means, after the work period is over the dog is rubbed down thoroughly and weighed. In some keeps the dog is only worked once a day, but in many he is worked twice a day, rubbed down twice, weighed twice, and possibly fed twice a day. A typical keep might entail road work in the morning and perhaps mill work in the afternoon. Again, the method of work is not so important as is the way it is practiced. Most trainers carefully staircase the work up, gradually increasing it each day. Some scientific-minded trainers use a hard work day followed by an easy work day that is followed by a still harder work day. This is the work recovery system, and the dog is less likely to go stale according to its adherence. Of course, the work is still being staircased up, but in a slightly different way, and all systems stipulate occasional rest days. In most keeps there is a gradual decrease of work the week before the fight, and most have a 48-hour period of no work at all immediately preceding the match. This is so the body will be supersaturated with energy, and the muscles with glycogen, for the match. A key element of success is carefully coordinating the diet with the work and the weight of the dog. No keep will work well if the trainer is not flexible and so sensitively attuned to his dog that he can sense when a change is needed and what that change should be. As you can see, a pit dog man has to be fanatically dedicated. He will be practically living with his dog for 2 or 3 months. By the time they get to the pit, a dog fighter will know every aspect of his dog far better than any pet owner knows his dog. Our dog man, therefore, is not likely to leave his dog down to be killed. While it is not part of the keep, an important element of care for the dog is care after the battle. Such care may involve monitoring the dog's temperature, using hot or cold compresses as needed, and keeping it stable, getting fluid into the animal via an intravenous feeding, and in general all-around intensive care for several days. Usually the dogs don't need such intensive treatment, but I know of trainers so fanatical that they always apply such therapy as a precautionary action, even when the dog shows no sign of shock. Some dog men are so dedicated that they have paid veterinarians a handsome fee to teach them appropriate techniques. Of course, the ideal situation is to get the dog to a veterinarian. But here the loonies have struck again. In several states they have pushed for laws requiring a veterinarian to report any person he suspects has fought his dog. Now there is a piece of truly asinine legislation. The intent, presume, was to crack down on dogfighting. The effect, quite simply, is that a whole lot of dogs miss out on professional treatment they might otherwise have received, and, because of this, undoubtedly, many lives have been lost that could have been saved.